Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Compact Chat Episode 2. I'm Investigator Jamel Allen with the Hoover Police Department.
I'm Detective Jason Davis with Helena Police Department.
So, in Episode 2, we're going to talk about some technology awareness and things that we feel like parents should be concerned with or aware of as far as their kids' use with social media. So, in this presentation, we're going to get kind of in detail of some of the ways that some of our youth may be hiding some of the things that they're doing. So this is going to be a very, very important presentation for parents, adults, school staff, school admin, anyone that's going to be involved with any type of youth who may have technology or cell phones or things like that. So, to start off with some of these technology concerns, we want to make sure that as parents, we're aware how much our youth are influenced through social media. What do you think about that, Jason?
Well, you got TikTok, Snapchat, they're
Hmm.
influenced a lot.
Yeah,
We see it on a day to day basis how kids are getting in trouble with these
yeah.
apps.
Yeah, and another thing that parents really have to be aware of is how many accounts their children may have. It's pretty common for a child or a teenager to have multiple accounts. And a lot of times I talk to parents who are like, hey, I follow my child on social media. They're not doing anything concerning. But a lot of times they don't realize how many accounts these kids actually have.
Well, what about the private apps? Do they
Exactly.
know about those?
They probably, maybe they don't. So let's talk about that a little bit. So if you don't know about the private content apps, we're talking about stuff like they may have names like Photo Vault, Cover Me, Keep Safe, Secret Calculator, etc. These are all ways that technology can be hidden on the phones, and different content can be hidden into these apps. So here's some examples. So what you're seeing on your screen on the left is an example of an app called Audio Manager. So how it works is it looks just like a volume control app, right? And when you press and hold the Audio Manager logo or title, a screen pops up for you to put in a passcode. Once you put in that passcode, you have access to the pictures, videos, apps, contacts, messages. You can hide all of this from your phone. So even if a parent is checking their kid's phone, they can use these private content apps to hide that information. It's pretty crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. So in the one in the middle, they have some like secret calculator that look just like calculators, and these kids know what they can be used for. You can just go to your Apple Store or Google Play Store and just type in private content app or secret vault, and you'll see some of these examples. You want to add anything on that, or it's pretty much okay? Some other apps to be aware of are what we call proximity apps. So when
What
we
is the proximity?
okay, yeah, so proximity app will be any type of app that's going to tell other people where you are.
Okay.
So if you get on Snapchat, just the regular settings on Snapchat is going to show you where your friends are located. But we have to be really careful with stuff like this because it can get pretty precise to your exact location as well.
That's not
Now,
good.
it's not good, especially when majority of people that we know online are people that we probably haven't met in real life.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about our youth now, how many of them are actually friends, quote unquote, with people that they don't actually know, or maybe even having adults or people predators, on their accounts,
Predators
and they don't know it.
portraying as teenagers.
Exactly. So these are some to be aware of. Probably the most popular here would be something like Snapchat. But even we have to be aware of the dating and hookup apps, and we'll talk a little bit about those in more detail in just a moment. But one way to protect yourself with these apps or protect your children with these apps, make sure they can put their Snapchat in ghost mode, or make sure they're checking the location sharing settings on these apps in order to make sure that they're not sharing that information with people that don't need to see it. So next we have messaging apps, which are a big concern, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say would be some of the concerns with the messaging apps?
Well, like Snapchat doesn't save things.
Hmm.
You can delete them pretty easily
Yeah.
from the parent's view.
Yeah.
Um, as in law enforcement can actually get into those
Hmm.
Snapchat records, but parents, the kids send something and it automatically goes away.
Yeah.
Um, you got Telegram and Signal; those are
Hmm.
encrypted.
Hmm.
WhatsApp is another very popular app.
Right. Yeah, and one thing I like to highlight when talking about these messaging apps, and this is something that's starting to grow into other platforms as well. They have this mode where there's disappearing messages. So Snapchat really popularized that, right?
Yeah,
So this creates a false sense of security, especially for our youth, because they're exchanging messages, sometimes videos, pictures, and things like that, and they feel like, okay, once the recipient receives that message, it automatically deletes. So we can send what we want, right? Nobody's going to see it, right?
Right. No.
Not the case. What we have noticed, especially in schools and stuff like that, all it takes, because they also have safeguards in where if you screenshot a message, the other person will know.
Right. Unless you
Now,
use another phone
exactly,
or
exactly.
tablet and
Yep.
screenshot that.
Yep, exactly. And that's exactly what we run into. We run into situations where if there's a video, picture, message, or something like that that's being shared to someone, if they want to share it to people without letting that person know that they recorded it or screenshot it or something, all they have to do is use another phone, like Detective Jason said, use another phone to record it or take that picture and send it out. And we see a lot of that. So disappearing messages is something common on Snapchat. WhatsApp has a mode now where after a certain amount of time, your messages can disappear. Now, Instagram has vanish mode where
Hmm.
you can just swipe up on your messages on Instagram, and the same thing, the messages will disappear. Facebook Messenger has the same thing now. So a lot of these apps are creating more ways to create that sense of security. But as we said, you're still not safe. When you're sending stuff like that, it's still easy for people to take that information and share it. And then at the same time, you have to be aware that for law enforcement, we can still a lot of times access that information when we need to. And this is a little difficult for parents because as parents we want to check our kids phones. If you're staff or admin and you're checking a phone, you have to be aware that you may not be able to find some of this stuff easily. If you're just going through their messages and not seeing anything,
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't there before, right?
Right.
So that's something for parents to be aware of. So when it comes to social media apps, what you guys see here is just a big list, and this is constantly growing. But these are some of the social media apps that you got to be aware of. Twitter is now X.
X.
Now I know we're speaking to adults, so we're going to talk about some mature subjects. With X, we have to be aware that there is a lot of explicit material on some of
A
these.
lot.
A lot of explicit material. It's easy to get access to that. If your child has access to these social media sites, whether it's through their phones, even through their video game systems, through the internet, you can
Yeah.
just get directly on there through a laptop. Any way that they can get access to the internet, then they'll have access to most of these apps. We have to be
Yes.
aware of that as parents. Some of the common ones, like we said, we mentioned X, TikTok. We have to be aware of all these new TikTok trends that are going around. Some of them actually dangerous. We have apps like Twitch or Whisper, where it was a completely anonymous app. Have you heard
Yeah.
of that one?
Have
Whisper.
not.
So apparently, you can just sign up, and it's pretty much made for you to be anonymous.
Okay.
And that's something that if my kids on something like that, then that's pretty scary, right?
Pretty scary.
So they have all of these opportunities to meet all these different people, hide their identities, and as we mentioned earlier, we have to be aware that a lot of times our kids are going to have multiple accounts, not just the account that's family friendly. They may have what's called a ghost account where they have only their friends on there. So another concern is the dating and hookup apps. Now I know this may sound kind of weird because we're talking about youth, but to your knowledge, is there any type of way that these apps can actually know if you're how old you say you are?
No. I mean, some of them, you have to be 18. There might be some that you have to use a credit card,
Yeah,
but you can get a Visa gift card
yeah, yeah,
as a credit card.
yeah,
You can lie about your age.
yeah.
I know many families that have Facebook. Their kids have Facebook,
Hmm.
and they've lied about their age to get
Hmm.
that access.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
these are all some of the dating apps that we should be aware of. If your child has any of these apps on their phone, check their search history. If they're on these sites, be extremely cautious because more than likely they're going to meet other adults or they're going to meet adults on these sites. And like we said, they can easily lie about their age. And this is a recipe for disaster. We've had cases nationwide involving juveniles getting access to these sites and ending up in dangerous situations with predators or adults who maybe didn't know or maybe don't care about how old they are. So we want to be aware of these sites that are out there and the fact that hey, they're not going to make you send your ID in to verify your age. So these are definitely sites to be aware of. You got something like Tinder is popular, Plenty of Fish, Bumble. It's another popular one.
Grinder.
Yeah, Grinder is a popular one for a specific community. So you have all of these sites here that you got to be aware of. Some other apps to watch. Now you may wonder, okay, well, hey, what's wrong with DoorDash and Uber Eats and Cash App? Now, why would Cash App be something that parents should really start looking at?
Um, why? So Cash App is a good way to exchange money without
Hmm.
having the physical money in your pocket.
Exactly.
Same as Venmo.
Yeah.
And if I buy something and I don't have cash on me, my friend has a Cash App or Venmo, I can just send them the money.
Yeah.
So, which leads to, all right, if I want to buy a vape
Hmm.
and I'm underage or I want to buy some drugs, and I can send that Cash App Venmo to my buddy that'll provide me with the product that I'm looking for.
Absolutely. And one of the good things about Cash App, and of course we have to be aware of multiple Cash App accounts because you can still do that. But the payment history is going to be there, right?
Yes.
So if you're going through your kid's phone, you see their Cash App, and you're starting to notice that hey, they're having these purchases for $15 here, $20 there, just on a regular basis. We got to start asking questions because
Hmm.
what we have to understand is the world is completely different now. You don't have to necessarily meet someone in person to exchange for drugs or vapes or anything like that, right?
Right.
All of that can be done strictly through social media and strictly through technology, exchanging money through Cash App, Venmo, these apps. They would deliver these drugs to your house a lot of the times,
Or a predetermined
or a
location.
predetermined location. We've seen that, and I think we may have some slides that touch on that. So I've also seen and heard of Uber Eats or DoorDash drivers being disguised, as these types of drivers, something legal, and actually being people who are delivering drugs as well as food. So if we order a certain type of product and this person is looking out for it, and they know exactly where you are, and they can pick up that call or pick up that job, it's kind of like a good way to be able to say, hey, this is why I'm in this neighborhood. I'm also delivering this cheeseburger for that person. You may have an extra delivery on that one. We're not going to
Yeah.
blame Uber Eats or DoorDash for that, but unfortunately, this is the reality. With all of these apps, probably have good intentions, but they get abused by people who use it for the wrong reasons,
Right.
right? So, what do we got here, Jason?
These are some drug emojis and terminology. They look like normal emojis
Hmm.
to the average person,
Yeah.
but people that are dealing drugs or using drugs, they use these emojis so they don't spell out the words.
You mean to tell me if I'm trying to buy weed, I'm not just going to straight up say, hey man, you got some weed?
No, you're not going to say straight up, "Hey, you got some weed."
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be
Like gas or something like
gas.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gas or loud are probably some of the more popular terms for marijuana. Now, granted, once someone builds a certain level of trust with someone and they feel like no one's looking at their messages, then they may be little bit more specific.
Right.
But for the most part, you're going to get these types of languages or terminology being used to hide what you're actually doing, especially for a kid who may be in fear of their mom or dad searching their phone or something like that, or someone who may feel like law enforcement may have access to their messages and
Hmm.
things like that. They're going to use this kind of coded language, to speak. So these are some popular terms and emojis that are used, and y'all can feel free to take a picture of that if you can or screenshot it. Just give you a second to look at that. Like I said, some of the popular ones, for marijuana, like I said, gas is a popular term, so they use the gas emoji,
Yeah.
or trees or something like that, so they use a tree emoji. Um, when we get into the heroin and the powder cocaine stuff like that, these are nicknames that have been going around for a while. Cocaine being called powder or
Blow.
snow blow. Yeah, that's been around for a while. Meth, crystal, ice cream. Xanax, bars, footballs. We're talking about Xanax, which is a rectangle pill or
Hmm.
a rectangle tablet with lines in it.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a football, so that's the nickname for it. So these are the types of terms that we have to be aware of. So what we have here is a translated conversation. Okay, now this is something that we made up, but it kind of gives you a good idea of how simple it would be for a whole drug transaction to take place with very few words.
Very few.
Very few words. So what we have here is an individual. All he has is the eyes in a boy symbol, which says he's looking for boy. And what is boy?
Heroin.
But boy is a nickname for heroin. So the dealer says no boy in his emojis, just girl, and girl is another nickname for cocaine. Then they get more specific and say crack cocaine, so they use a rock or a diamond or something
Diamond.
like that to signify the crack cocaine. Person says, okay, do you have any Xanax bars? Now, he didn't write all that. All he had to do was put a football in a question mark because football, as we know, is one of the nicknames for Xanax.
Nope.
Yep, nope, no Xanax, but he has powder cocaine with the snow
Mm.
emoji.
Yep.
Now, we get it. This is kind of extreme. We hope none of
Yeah.
our kids are going this far, but we just want to highlight how easy it is to use this type of language, with just emojis, to make this stuff happen. Now, this is something that's a little more realistic, where we have simply a gas logo and a question mark. Got
Keep.
gas, looking for gas. Now, hey, our kid may actually need actual gas somewhere, right?
Yeah. But normally they're going to type out, "Hey, I need gas."
Exactly.
They're not going
Yeah.
to send a gas
Yeah.
can. Um, and then the other guy, he's like gives a thumb up for
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and then he writes in he's got a fire, a
Yeah.
flame.
Yeah.
So that's usually good quality.
Yeah.
And then rocket, very good quality.
Mm-hmm.
So and then he's got the wigged out emoji. I
Mm-hmm.
want some bad.
Yeah.
And then he writes back with the tongue sticking out with the money on it.
Mm-hmm.
It will cost you.
Yeah. And from there, that's when they're going to go to the Cash App, Venmo, whatever to get that exchange, right?
Yeah.
Once got to get the money. It's all about the money for all these people involved and stuff
and
like
and
that.
kind of back to that is
Mhm.
like, okay, where are they getting the money from?
Yeah.
Birthdays,
Yeah.
Christmas, cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of our teens, some of them have jobs, where they're working and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So, um,
Got to keep track of all
got to
that.
keep track of it. Here's another list of emojis that are kind of popular. If you guys want to take pictures of that. We probably don't have time to go through each of them, but these are just some other emojis and stuff to be aware of. We kind of highlight the stuff where you see high potency, maybe a fire or a bomb or a rocket or something like that going off. Unfortunately, we're living in a time where it's all about the more potent stuff. The more potent stuff your stuff is, the more popular it's going to be. So
Mm-hmm.
they really want to promote whether or not their stuff is strong. Now, what you have here is actually, this is actually from a real Telegram account
Yes.
that we actually had to shut down at some point. So here you have just an example of a full menu that was available all through social media.
And it shows his emojis for each product.
Exactly, and just like we just said, these emojis that we talked about, this is a real example of that. So we're not going to go through all of that. We don't have a lot of time, but we just really wanted to give you guys an example of some of the stuff that's out there. And what you see here is another social media account, and then you actually see this was a real conversation that we got, and we got permission to share this information. And as you can see, the dealer says, "I got gas." Now, there's no question what gas is, because right after he says that, he actually sends a picture of what he's talking about. And as we can see, he's not talking
Mm-hmm.
about gasoline.
No, he's not.
So as we can see, this is something that is clearly happening through social media. As parents, we have to be aware and vigilant and make sure that we're checking our kids' phones, looking for these secret apps, looking for any type of suspicious conversations or suspicious contacts. Make sure we're just not just looking past this stuff, ignoring it,
Right.
right, Jason?
Right. You have to be very vigilant with your kids. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a crazy world we're living in now. Times are changing, and you just you got to be that parent and look through their phone from time to time. You're not invading their privacy or things like that. It's your right.
Yeah.
Um, keep your kids safe.
Yeah, it's all about keeping them safe, and unfortunately, there are too many ways for our kids to be distracted through the internet, through social media, and it's very easy for them to end up on the wrong road, and in the wrong direction, just by being introduced to this stuff, introduced to these groups, introduced to these dealers, introduced to this type of material. It's very, very easy and very common. So we have to be aware as parents of what's out there. So I guess the question that I get a lot when I talk about this in kind of deeper detail normally is, well, what can we do about it as parents? Like, how do we keep up with what's going on with our kids and what's going on in their phones? Like, how can we be more vigilant?
There's apps for it. There's
Mm-hmm.
monitoring apps, software
Mm-hmm.
that for Google or Android
Mm-hmm.
and for iPhones
Okay.
that you can download. And some of them pay.
Okay.
You got to pay a monthly subscription. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them, I believe, are free.
Yeah.
And it's just depends on what do you want. Like you have Boomerang,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Bark.
Bark,
Yeah.
and several apps like that.
Yeah.
And which one's best for you is you have to decide on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did on that, and I would just say, just do your research on these certain ones. We just shared a few here. We mentioned Bark, and there's other ones like Custodio with the Q, different brands. I mean, obviously, we're not here to promote one over the other, but do your research and try to decide which one is best for you. But definitely makes sense to have some way to keep track. I mean,
some way. Yeah.
unfortunate reality is a lot of times they can still find a ways to get around it, but we don't want to make it easy for them,
Right.
right?
Right.
There's actually even phones. I think Bark and some other companies actually have phones with this stuff already built in,
Yes.
where you can control their contacts, you can see their text messages. Some of these apps may already be blocked when it comes to like
Hmm.
TikTok and stuff like that, and then they may even block access through the web because that's another way that that they find they get around these protocols where the app may be blocked through the app store, but then they just go on the website and can still
Right.
get on in Snapchat or TikTok through the browser, the web
Right.
browser. So some of these monitoring apps or monitoring software can actually keep up with that as well. So do your research on it, and we are definitely here if you guys have any questions. If you can scan our contact info, all of our contact information is there, or you can visit us at compact2020.com or our facebook.com/compact2020. You can reach out to us with any questions, concerns that you have, or if you feel like there's something we need to add, please feel free to add it. We really thank you guys for taking the time with us, and to learn this stuff. And we hope that you guys are willing to share whatever information that you guys find so we can update other parents as well.
Yeah. And like you said, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And we hope you enjoyed this content. And we'll be sending out another one, session 3, in a few months.
See y'all soon. Thank you.